Good morning, everyone, and happy Friday. Okay, let's talk about the 7th Congressional District in Tennessee. There is a special election that will be held on Tuesday, and we have two candidates. Now, the reason this election is extremely important is because Donald Trump won this particular district by 22 points. 22 points in 2024, just last year. The Democratic candidate is within the margin of error. She's only down by 2 points, which means there was a 20-point swing. So let's talk about the candidates. The candidate for the Democrats, her name is Afton Bane, and the candidate for the Republicans, his name is Matt Vane Epps. And so Afton Bane is a 36-year-old state legislator that's been working on the ground in Tennessee, advocating for the Affordable Care Act, subsidies to be extended, immigration rights. She's advocating for affordability. This woman was born in Appalachia, Tennessee, basically Eastern Tennessee, and she's been doing a lot of work. She's been advocating for, in my view, righteousness and progressive ideologies, so much so that Fox News has deemed her the AOC of Tennessee. But listen to what this woman is basically advocating for. These are things that is very important to everyone, no matter your political party. She's talking about gas prices. She's talking about prices of groceries. She's saying in Tennessee, grocery prices are the highest in the country. She's saying that her constituents are actually advocating for the Affordable Care Act subsidies to be extended. Now, the Republicans are nervous. Like, the Republicans are having a very difficult time with this because remember, like I said previously, Donald Trump won that district by 22 points. 22 points. And so the Republicans are dumping a whole bunch of money into this election. However, Aftyn has still basically outraised her Republican her Republican rival, opponent, or candidate, or whatever. She's basically outraised him, and her average donation is under $45, and which is very, very grassroots. His average donation is a lot more than that because he's funded by billionaires, which is the Republican candidate, Matt Vane Epps. He's funded by billionaires. And they have J.D. Vance basically going down to Tennessee to campaign for him. Hide your couches, but and people in Tennessee, hide your couches, okay? But J.D. Vance will basically be down there campaigning for him, and that kind of shows how much the Republicans are afraid for this particular election, because right now this election being in the margin of error, and Afton Bane, even though Fox News has tried to deem her like this ultra super progressive person, it seems very much to me that progressive ideologies is just like ideologies that's good for Americans. Affordability, medical insurance. And this is the thing. This is the reason that it made me like really, really like her. Afton Bane came to the state legislature in 2016. She started doing her work then. She was advocating for the Affordable Care Act and Medicaid. So basically she can save local hospitals, because there were a lot of hospitals in Tennessee, unfortunately, that was being threatened to be shut down because a lot of these subsidies were being taken away. So she started her career advocating for Medicaid, the Affordable Care Act, things that everyday Americans need. And so I think the reason that she's well within the margin of error is because she's fighting for the average person. She's not fighting for the billionaires in Washington. She's not fighting for these corporate PACs. She's not fighting for people who have a lot of money and they don't have to worry about affordability or medical insurance or immigration. They don't have to worry about any of those things. The person she's running against, Matt Vane Epps, he's basically going to be a rubber stamp for the Trump administration. He's basically going to do their bidding. He supported the big disastrous bill, is what I call it. He basically supported that, and he's going to go to, if he's elected, which I think will be an actual travesty, he's going to go to Washington and he's going to do whatever Donald Trump says. He is not going to be concerned about his constituents. He's not going to be concerned about affordability. He's not going to be concerned about any of those things, because what he's going to do is what's already being done in Washington. basically adhering to billionaires, basically adhering to people who have money and resources. And Afton Bane, she's a real true fighter. She's someone that's fighting for the average American. She's someone who knows, she said personally, if the Affordable Care Act subsidies are not extended, she herself would not be able to afford medical insurance. You have to think about that. This is very personal for her. She also was arrested while, in the state house because she was advocating for the resigning of the Speaker of the State House. He basically was credibly accused of harming children. And she advocated for that person to resign. And they have footage of her being arrested. This is a true patriot in my opinion. I hope she wins. I hope Tennessee do the right thing. I hope people vote for her because she's going to shake up Washington. She's going to go to Washington and advocate for the people of Tennessee, not corporate PACs, not billionaires, not Washington establishment. And so it's the reason I think that it's imperative that she win. Another thing that she also talked about, which I thought was very smart, she talked about having Republicans as friends. She talked about Republicans praying for her because she's receiving, you know, unfortunately, there is so much aggression and anger and vitriol in politics. So she says she's receiving a lot of hate, a lot of misogyny and all of these things. And she have Republican, people who are Republican that's in the state house praying for her and saying that they believe that she will be a great candidate. They believe she would do a great job in Washington. And so I think it will be, if the other guy wins, I think it will be really bad. I think if she wins, I think it will be a phenomenal thing for Tennessee. And so again, her name is Afton Bane. She's a 36-year-old state legislator that's been advocating and fighting for righteousness, for affordability, for medical insurance for people, for immigration rights, for people to actually have due process in this country that guarantees due process. It's in our Constitution. I mean, just a little friendly reminder for people who's just like, I don't care. It's like, well, yeah, it's in our Constitution that we all are due process, even if you're not a citizen. Our Constitution says when your feet touches American soil, you are due process. You do not have to be born in this country. So, yeah, so the people in Tennessee, I hope you guys do the right thing. I think she is a phenomenal candidate. I've been watching like a lot of coverage. I've been reading a lot about her. Another thing I think was extremely important, Afton talked about working across the aisle. She talked about working in a bipartisan fashion. It's imperative that we send people to Washington that understands that it's important to work cross-functionally. You have to work across the aisle. You have to work with the other side. Even if it's things that you don't necessarily agree with, but you have to come to some type of middle ground so that there can be some kind of movement or progression for the American people. Afton talked about that. She talked about how she understood that it was important to work and collaborate with people who had different ideologies that she has. She seems like a progressive candidate, which is great because you don't often think of Tennessee as being liberal or Democrat or progressive. You think of it being like a very red state. But what she's showing is being progressive and working diligently for the American people is common sense. Your legislators are sent to Washington to advocate for their constituents, to work for the people who sent them there. And she understands that that's her job and that's her responsibility. And that was another thing that I really, really enjoyed and I appreciated about her. I think she would do a phenomenal job in the House. Again, her name is Afton Bane. She's a 36-year-old state legislator. She is running against Matt Vane Epps. She's running for Tennessee's 7th Congressional District. I think she would do a great job. Tennessee, do the right thing. Send this woman to Congress so a difference can be made, you guys. I want you guys to like, comment, and subscribe. I hope this video reach a whole bunch of people in Tennessee because I think she's a great candidate. I think you guys already know, considering she's within the margin of error. Tennessee, bring it home. Do a great job. You guys have a phenomenal Friday, and I will talk to you later. Bye, y'all.